being in a lifestyle where I've come across a lot of different walks of people, it it just feels natural to me. I enjoy learning about my clients, about their lives. And then honestly, having the memory of an elephant. Now, most of the time I'm looking at people that are upside down. So when you walk in, I'm like, hey, how are you? And when you lay down, I'm like, how's your mama? How did this work out? Because I'm used to looking at you upside down and it triggers things. But I genuinely love all of my clients, right? This is a safe space. This is one of the reasons I created. This is because I wanted a place where we as women could come, be ourselves, share things, relate, right? And not feel so much like it's just us.
Welcome to Let's Get Real, a candid conversation series about leadership impact and what it really takes to show up with purpose and authenticity. Today's conversation is entitled Personal Excellence and Brand, Living Well and Being Well in Every Space. Our guest is Erica Fulton, a licensed master esthetician and educator who helps people live well and be well in the spaces and places they occupy. All right, Erica, welcome. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you
I'm
for
going to get
having me.
absolutely. I'm super excited about this conversation. So I'm going to get right into all the questions I have
Okay.
for you.
Let's do it.
What inspired you to become an esthetician, and how has your journey shaped the way you serve your clients today?
So I previously lived abroad in Europe, and I had some health issues that led to my skin, my hair, everything just kind of being very out of whack. Acne that I had never dealt with before, hyperpigmentation that I had never dealt with before, painful skin, hair loss. And at the time, I was pregnant. And the doctors wanted to give me all of this very, very heavy medicine that we weren't too sure if it was even going to be safe for my son. And I really
Mhm.
wanted to seek out something more topical because I was pregnant and a little bit more natural. And so
Mhm.
luckily I was in an area where there is a big push, in Europe that things not be toxic or things like that. And I saw a few estheticians, of course. I'm in Europe, so not too many of them are used to the melanated skin. And so it really led me to kind of delve into learning and researching myself, going back to my roots of calling my aunt, who was very, very holistic, picked up a lot from my grandmother. She made me a cream, she made me a serum for my hair. My skin cleared up and my hair grew back, right? And me being a very what's the root, what's the why, it really made me delve into, okay, well, why is this herb good for the skin? What is it
Mhm.
really working with? And that led me to going to school, going to aesthetic school in Europe. That is where my journey began. And then when I came back to the States, I went to school here. I got my basic license, my master esthetician license, and I'm also an instructor. And it really just kind of led me to want to fill that need that I needed at the time of having someone who has had the concerns, right? I don't want someone with this beautiful glowing skin. You've never had a pimple in your life and you're trying to relate and tell me about, what it's like. So having someone who's had the experience, who has the melanin, who understands how it works, and I'm very passionate about the continuing education and making sure that I'm bringing my clientele and my community the top of the line cutting edge technology and ingredients, and making sure that we're using them in a way that works best for our skin. So very personal approach, because it is something that's personal to me. I also struggled with having bad skin at one point, and I hate to say bad skin, but skin concerns at one point. And so that is kind of where all that started.
Wow. Wow, I never knew that, Erica. But it's interesting how your personal questioning or something that's happened to you kind of drives you to learn more, which then turns into a passion, which then turns into a income stream. So that's really interesting.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
So I'm always curious about how you connect, how we feel inside to how we feel outside. And so how do you help people connect their outer appearance to how they feel inside?
I definitely think that sometimes that is the most difficult part of what I do, because with social media and filters left and right, sometimes we are very hard on ourselves. I talk to women, teenagers over the phone, and like, my skin is horrible. I have all these spots, it's all of this. And then they walk in and I'm like, girl, it's not, it's not bad. And so I oftentimes try to reassure people, that their skin concerns are not remotely what I would consider problematic. Now, I have had some that maybe we need to do something a little bit more invasive, but making sure that we are being realistic, right? And not looking to don't get me not looking to TikTok and the places where the people are filtered and pounds of makeup, whether you realize it or not, and making sure that we're being realistic to ourselves and we know what works for us, right?
Mhm.
I'm not trying to do what works for Tyra Banks. I want the skin that Erica needs to make Erica feel complete and whole, and just making sure that we are first on the inside taking a good account of, are the expectations that we have for ourselves for us, and are they
Mhm.
realistic, right? And so a lot of times I just really, 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 9 times out of 10, want to make sure I'm reassuring people that, like we said earlier, we kind of get into our own heads and we think that I haven't had bad acne and I have these 3 or 4 bumps and I have to get a chemical peel and micro needling, and that may not necessarily be the case. You may just need a little pimple cream, right? And a little SPF.
Mhm.
So I definitely try to make sure that we are having realistic expectations and not getting sucked into that warped world of social media and what the world expects of us, especially as women, because it's so unrealistic.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a really good point. And I think, the filters are so interesting. First of all, they're effective, right? Yes, they're very
Yes.
effective. But they do give you this false sense of perfection, right?
Yeah,
And I think, social media in general, people ch post what they choose to post, and then and the same thing could be for what they don't post. And I think we just have to go into that with that in mind as we're looking at and consuming social media. Um,
absolutely.
but what's interesting too is that social media is no different than what the TV used to be, right? Like when you
Yes.
look at that, about the old soap operas and how glamorous those lives. Well, nobody really lived like the people in Dallas or like Days of Our Lives. So,
And we're so overly connected in that way, right? To where
mm,
if you're constantly using the filters, you're constantly editing down your pictures, you can subsequently get to a place where when you do look at your natural self, you're not pleased because you're so used to seeing this false idea of what beauty and perfection looks like.
right, right. Very good point. So this takes me right into my next question for you, and it's all around confidence. So many professionals, of course, struggle with confidence in high pressure environments. What are some practical self care or presentation tips you can share to help them show up strong?
The first thing that comes to mind, and it's interesting that we say it on the heels of the social media conversation, but fake it. I am so nervous right now, right? But we want to make sure that we're exuding that confidence, right? That we are, even if you find it hard or difficult, that you really are just digging for that alter ego, for lack of a better comparison, that Sasha Fierce, right? Of who and how you want to show up, and then making sure that you are most of all comfortable, right? You
Mhm,
don't want to find yourself trying to conform, trying to wear something that is not comfortable for you, trying to do a cosmetic look that is not, something that you feel your best self in. So comfort
mhm,
is always one of my number one go-tos, right? Comfort and ease. Even when it comes to like skincare regimens, I'm not going to give you a 22 Korean skincare regimen, because who has time to do all of that, right? My life allows for 10 minutes, and I'm not even alone. There's normally a person in there for me to do what I need to do for my skin. And so making sure that we are comfortable in what we're doing and that we are showing up as the person we want to be until we can fully feel like that person, right? And so I think that that's really, really important, because if not, you'll find yourself shying away from opportunities.
mhm,
You'll find yourself shying away from public appearances and things of that sort, and it just, then you feel a little bothered, right? So
mhm,
fake
mhm,
it, be comfortable, be your authentic self, and not try to, replicate what you see others doing or being. And that to me is honestly the best way that you can show up as, for yourself.
Girl, oh, you just dropped so many like little gems. Okay, so the one that I love the most is, because I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Like in my mind, I have this persona of who I am. And when I don't perform, or I don't act, or I don't do with what aligns with that, I get very disturbed. And so I
Hmm.
think to your point, we all have this vision of who we think we are and who we want to be, and so being true to that is so important. um and I think I love it, fake it till you make it, because
Fake
I
it
think
till
that's,
you make it.
I love that, I love it.
Whatever gets you in that position, in that mind space, right?
Mhm.
You do that, and do what again is comfortable for you. I had a mentor back when I was in the military, and she would always say how this classical music calmed her before, big presentations to 2 3 star generals and all of that. I needed Gucci Mane because that's what got me there, right? That's what got me ready to do the thing. And so that was authentically like what I needed to get myself in that, okay, yeah, you got this, let's do this space. And it had to be because I tried a little Bach, I tried a little Beethoven, it did not work for me,
Yeah, I
so
yeah. And I think the other piece too, that I love that you just mentioned is comfort. I think we have to be confident. If we're doing something that doesn't make us feel confident and comfortable, like that's so important. And then, defining who that is, and the authenticity, you define what authenticity is for yourself, right? Like, um,
absolutely.
so yeah, love all of that. Ooh, wow, Erica. Wow. Mm-mm. Um, so I know this because I am one of your clients, and I know
Mhm.
that you work with people from all different walks of life.
Mhm.
But how do you approach building trust and authentic connections with your clients?
Again, just really genuinely being myself. I am naturally a curious person. So I have a desire to want to know about people, about their lifestyles, their heritage, especially when they come from other cultural backgrounds.
Mhm,
And I think that's important that you genuinely, for me, genuinely want to know and care about what's happening with and for my clients, right? And not out of a place that's just kind of running down questions. I genuinely want to know, what is this upcoming, cultural holiday that you're sharing, or how is this work, or how does that work? And I think that being in a lifestyle where I've come across a lot of different walks of people, it it just feels natural to me. I enjoy learning about my clients, about their lives. And then
mhm,
honestly, having the memory of the elephant. Now, most of the time I'm looking at people that are upside down. So when you walk in, I'm like, hey, how are you? And when you lay down, I'm like, how's your mama? How did this work out? Because I'm used to looking at you upside down and it triggers things. But I genuinely love all of my clients, right? This is a safe space. This is one of the reasons I created this, is because I wanted a place where we as women could come, be ourselves, share things, relate, right? And not feel so much like it's just us. And that's
mhm,
one of the biggest things that I really, really push in my conversations. Like, hey, this isn't just you. This happened to me too. I
mhm,
have several clients that are going through the same thing, because sometimes that stigma of feeling alone in an issue or alone in a situation can almost make whatever it is a little easier to deal with, when you
mhm,
feel like
mhm,
it's not this one off, I'm the only person type of situation. And so genuinely caring, honestly, which sounds very, stereotypical to say, but I genuinely care about my clients, and I genuinely get to know them, get to know what's going on in their lives, and make sure that I am able to, in ways that are authentic to me, relate to those things.
mhm. Love that. I mean, I think that last piece, how you connect, it has to be something that is authentically you in terms of connecting as well. I was just talking to someone about, we were talking about authenticity and how, the most effective leaders lead through their authentic self. And then
Absolutely.
they were like, and this leader over here is not. And I said, well, wait a minute, Judge Judy, let's not go there. Right? because maybe there's a reason why this person is showing up, and maybe that is their authentic self. Like, we don't,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I think we have to be careful about that, and maybe that's just how they lead, and it might be a different style, and maybe that'll attract a different kind of person. But I think, you know, I don't know where I'm going with this other than the importance of authenticity. And I think it's how we show up, you know.
Absolutely.
I guess what I'm trying to say is you could put on a fakeness, right? You could be fake and try to lead or try to connect. It's not the same as when you just show up, you know, and just give it. You are who you are.
And understanding that your authentic self is not for everybody. It
True
it
that.
it may
I
it
don't
may
lie
not
this
be
time. I do know that.
it may not be a good fit. This is not the space where I do silent services. Now, if you come in and you're like, Erica, it's been a long day, I don't want to talk to you today, I'll muffle up. But I want this to be a place where you can decompress and you can, I can learn more about you. You can learn more about me to build that comfortability. And then through that natural conversation, I find out a lot simply about the skin. Oh, yeah, because my family was here and we went here and we did this and we did that. So you've been eating a lot of dairy, right?
That's me. That's me.
But it's
But
natural
you
and it's
see that right there?
genuine.
I did have I had a on last Monday, I went to McDonald's for Lewis and I picked up a frappuccino. I
I
hadn't had one
told
in
you,
years.
it'll do it to you every time.
Mhm.
But through those natural conversations is really how I build that connection and understanding it. Some people may come and be like, hey, she talks to me too much, I'm never going back. And that's okay. Again, your authentic self may not be for everyone. Kind of speaking to that piece of how spoke of someone
Mhm.
comparing leaders. Well, that person may not be a team that you need to be a part of, or a place that you need to follow, but it doesn't make it wrong in any way, shape, or form for what they're trying to accomplish.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that's the beauty of business, individuality, whatever, is that everything ain't for everybody, right? And so every
Mhm.
person is not for everybody as well. And I think that finding people that you can connect with in those authentic spaces is really important. Um, Talk to me a little bit about personal brand. Um, when I think about personal brand, I know that it's more than just looks. When I think about it, I think about consistency. I think about, having something that you've identified as yourself and how you want to demonstrate yourself personally. How do you coach your clients to align their image with their professional and personal goals?
Again, it's a part of it really comes down to what's important to you, right? Because there are certain things that you just can't fake. There are certain, you don't want to jump on the trend of this is what I support, or this is, if your heart, your morals, what you stand for is somewhere else. So I definitely, again, and I feel like we keep coming back to the word of authenticity, but I definitely think making sure that where you are aligning yourself as a person and as a brand, they definitely intersect, right? And
Mhm.
it's not that you have these two very different people, to where who you present to be at public speaking on Instagram, and then when people meet you, it's completely different, right? You want to be able to comfortably be yourself in all those spaces, and making sure that you have causes and things that are genuinely important to you, right? um, Myself personally, I am a big advocate for breast cancer awareness. My grandmother, my aunts, my mother have all had breast cancer. And so that's something that's very near and dear to me. Now, not to say that, colon cancer isn't important, but it's going to be hard for me to align with that, right?
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
I definitely make sure I'm aligning myself with things, and I'm encouraging my clients to align themselves with things that are that you can go with ease, right? It doesn't feel very a lot of friction or restriction, in that it is such a job for you to
Right.
show up as that person, because then it's an act,
Yep.
right? Then it's not who you are, and it becomes something that is hard to keep up with, right?
Mhm.
It becomes very, very hard to keep up with. And so definitely aligning with things that are near and dear to you, that you can confidently be behind, and a person that you can consistently be, the person that you actually are, as opposed to this huge facade.
Yeah. Now, I'm just going to take us over here just for a second, because I think when you think about showing up as your authentic self, I will say this: my authentic self at work is slightly different than my authentic self,
Absolutely. A time and a
you know,
place.
when I'm hanging out with somebody else. And even my authentic self at home is a little, because, and I think it has to do with the level of, um, I guess, how much I share or how much I do or whatever. But that doesn't mean I'm not being authentic. I just have an
Mhm.
authentic work Reneé. I have an authentic house, wife Reneé, and then an authentic homegirl Reneé. Like, but they're
Absolutely.
all, they just show up slightly different. Like, you're gonna get different levels of it, right? So I think that it's important. It doesn't mean that I'm being fake. And I think that that's
Mhm.
something I've learned over time. It's just a different version of it, because they can't tolerate at work, probably homegirl Reneé. I
Well,
probably
and again, I guess I consider myself a Southern woman. There's a time and a place, right? And we are multifaceted, and I feel like you can be all those things. I like to give the analogy when I'm talking to my clients that mom Erica is different from wife Erica, is different from daughter Erica, is different from
Mhm.
sister, cousin, but
Got
they're
a
all still me.
Mhm.
I'm not struggling or trying to desperately hold back something when I'm being any of those people. It's
Right,
just what is needed of me in that space, in that moment, for that time is what
mhm,
truly comes forward, right?
right,
And so again, it makes it a lot easier, and it doesn't, like you said, feel like you're being fake. You're still being yourself,
mhm,
but who my 18-year-old needs is different from who my 6-year-old needs, is different from, who my husband needs. And it's still all me. Just,
right.
the parts of me that show up may be a little more intense or less intense, depending on the situation.
I like intense. That's the word I'm gonna start using. Yes, the level of intensity shifts
Yes,
based on,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I like that. Thank you.
Different gear, same car, just a different gear,
Yeah. Because I think some people really do, take that as you being fake, or you not being who you are. I think, to your point though, you have to meet the situation. You have to meet the person where they are. And I think that comes with maturity, and just experience.
Absolutely.
Because I
Absolutely.
learned quickly at work, I can't give all that.
Absolutely.
Just all that paycheck. Can't do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And understanding when it's needed, like from especially what you're saying, like with work and even in personal relationships with your husband. Now, of course, these are things that you learn over time with maturity, but restraint, right? Like, oh, I can't,
Mhm.
maybe I shouldn't say this, or
Yeah.
this isn't the time. Like the timing is off. And so,
Yeah.
again, that's something that does come with a certain level of maturity and experience
Ooh,
as well.
yes. Yes. So I've learned a lot
that I'm
about
still that I'm still getting together.
that. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Um, what advice would you give professionals who are just beginning to think about their personal brand?
Definitely, I'm a write it out type of person. I need to see it in black and white. And I
Mhm.
think that starting with the what is your goal? What is it you're trying to accomplish? And how do you genuinely go about that in your day to day,
Mhm.
right? And who it is that you're trying, if who it is that you're trying to accomplish something for, what's your audience, right? What is the pain point of the people that you are trying to service within your brand, and how you fix those things with who you genuinely are, the talents you have, the experience, the education, the training that you may be able to provide, and making sure that it is in balance with, again, what the end goal is of what it is you're trying to achieve. So if it is a course, coaching, if it is, being a resource of information, how are you naturally doing that for people, and what is it specifically that people who are going to be following your brand need, right? Doritos doesn't advertise to people who need toothpaste, right? Making sure that you are servicing the needs of the people who are actually seeking you out for those things is definitely, definitely number one and most important.
Nice. All right. Your tagline: I help people live well and be well in the spaces and places they occupy. What does this mean to you, and how do you bring it to life?
Confidence,
Mhm.
right? I think that especially from the nature of my job, I see how much physical appearance can really, really affect the most confident of people, right? Outside of aesthetics, I also do permanent makeup and have begun doing reconstruction for those who have had mastectomies, right? Areola reconstruction. And
Mhm.
although you have um, the surgeries afterwards to look more woman like, that last little bit gives you a confidence that you would not believe, right? And so I definitely think that being able to be confident and be whole and take up that space, and that's a very broadly used term, but taking up that space for yourself is really, really important, because whenever we do have those things that make us feel a little sensitive to certain things or less adequate, you're not able to show up
Mhm.
boldly in those places, right? You do have this little bit of tug in the, oh my goodness, and does this fit? Does my skin, are they looking at this versus listening to what I'm saying? And so making sure you have that confidence is really, really my main goal. Again, making sure that the confidence is something that is genuine to you, and not making sure that you are trying to attain to something that you see on social media, or
Mhm.
a different, that is authentically you, and that you are confident and that you're showing up every day, whether you be a stay-at-home mom, a CEO, a government worker, that you are showing up and you're confident in who you are, and that helps you to get through things, in my personal opinion, for me as a woman, um with a lot less friction.
Yeah, so agree. So agree. Erica, thank you.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you. Thank
you.
you
I love talking to
so
you.
much.
This is amazing. I love what you're doing. I'm so excited for it.
I really do appreciate you coming on here and sharing all your wisdom and expertise. I really do. And um, I think your story reminds us of personal excellence really starts with our intentional, the care that we provide to ourselves, and authenticity, right? That's been our word that we have
Absolutely.
pulled through this conversation this evening. Um, and that's really all about showing up for ourselves and others in the best place we can. Erica, again, thank you so much for joining us. If the listeners are interested in learning more about your services or just want to get in contact with you, how do they connect with you?
Absolutely. So we are on all social media platforms as Kin Skin Wellness. That's KINSKINWELLNESS. And also on via our website, www.kinskinwellness.com. There is opportunity for you to chat with us directly from the website. There is contact information, whether it be email or phone number, available there. And I would love to see you guys, service you guys, or just have you guys learn more about our business.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Erica.
you.
All right. See you guys next time. Bye.